All right, the recording started. You can begin.
Guys, you could begin.
Hi, sir. Y'all can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So, good evening, everyone. We will be presenting for you today for our leadership and ethics course, our group presentation, introduction. We will be presenting to you today Chapter 7, Interacting in Groups and Teams from the Exploring Leadership text. This chapter defines the concepts behind groups and teams and working in them. Also, it emphasized and applied the relational leadership model to groups and teams. It will be presented by myself, Chanel Bonnet, and AJ Gopal. The topics presented are broken into three main categories: understanding groups, group development, and dynamic in groups. So I'll now pass you on to AJ.
Thank you. Understanding groups. When you go about your life, you will come across various types of groups. In these groups, there are some that have a form of system where distinct rules or processes exist. These groups are more of a formal setting. There are also some groups where there is no structure, in which we can call these groups informal. Some examples of groups are businesses, companies, say like Heritage or Nestle, friend circles, clubs, local religious gatherings such as temples, churches, and mosques, fraternities, and even your own families. What is a group exactly? A group of two people is what we call a pair, so it wouldn't technically be considered a group. Groups tend to consist of three or more people interacting and communicating interpersonally over time in order to reach a goal. Different dimensions to groups can tell us what kind of group it is, and from this we can imply what kind of leadership it may have. There are three important dimensions that will aid us in comprehending the different types of groups, and these are purpose, structure, and time. Purpose. There are many reasons for a group to exist. The group must have its purpose. Without it, it will have no reason to exist. Having a purpose is like the core of the group. It keeps the group together and alive. Examples of these are Alcoholics Anonymous or the AA, rehabilitation centers for drug abusers, friendship support groups, and an organization that produces a product or service. Alcoholics Anonymous is a group of people who come together to address and solve the problem of drinking. Rehabilitation centers for drug abusers has a purpose to help people overcome their addiction to drugs such as cocaine, ketamine, and heroin, and many other drugs. Friendship support groups help in being there for the other person in times of need and providing emotional support. The aim of the group should lead to the structures and processes needed to help the people in the group accomplish their purposes. Structure. The second dimension encompasses structure. This refers to how the people in the group relate to each other with regards to the mechanisms involved in it. Some groups are highly structured with hierarchical roles or positions. Others are undefined and evolve. In terms of a highly structured group, think about it from an industrial perspective. You have the frontline workers engaged in assembling the product, the supervisors supervising them to make sure they are doing what they are supposed to do and not slack off. Then there are the managers in charge of the departments to make sure that production progress is optimal. And then we have the president or chairman who sets the goals to be attained while ensuring that all departments meet it. Finally, we have the CEO, who is the Chief Executive Officer, who makes the major corporate decisions and manage the overall resources and affairs of the company. Some groups have people that hold a certain amount of authority, with the leader having the highest, while in other groups, the amount of authority for each person is the same. Examples of such leaders are the president, chairperson, or director. In a group where there is no leader, everyone participates and contributes to accomplish the task assigned to them. The required roles between participants are shared, and leadership either arises or is divided among the group in the informal setting. In the formal hierarchical setting, however, the responsibility may fall under the leader, but he or she may use different styles of leadership. The leadership can range from highly autocratic to involving group members and empowering them through the elements of the relational leadership. There are informal leaders who can impact the group and decision-making processes. This can be because of the past position in the company or organization, their seniority, or their character. Their seniority means that they have spent a lot of time in the organization and would be knowledgeable about the way the company operates. Employees who have not spent as much time as their senior would look to them for guidance. And finally, the type of person they are, say like the ones who makes wise decisions or the ones who take charge. Time. The third and final dimension is time. Groups can exist for any amount of time. It can either meet for several days that can go on for a long time, or it can be time limited, which means that it can meet just for 2 or 3 meetings. Members in the group can be assigned roles that last for a certain amount of time. For example, a prime minister of a country, well, let's say Trinidad and Tobago, and a school prefect. A prime minister in our country would have 5 years in office, and when the 5 years are up, another or even the same person would take the place depending on who wins the election. A school prefect would be appointed, and the position would last for a certain amount of time. In my previous school, Irie High School, the prefects were appointed from the Form 6 level, and after they have finished the upper 6 level, they would have been relieved from their duties. The group may be an ongoing group, like staff members at work, your family, a fraternity, charity groups, or even football and cricket teams. Time-limited groups are often called a task force or ad hoc committee. Ongoing groups use such names as committee, board, or council. The duration of the group raises different challenges. Members of time-limited groups must quickly build a relationship where everyone can work peacefully with each other, and they must find some sort of common ground and purpose. Members must be encouraged to be active and try not to lose focus on their roles. This is because of the short time for the group to exist. They must quickly resolve their disagreements where everyone can be on the same page and finish the task required before the group disbands. Ongoing groups must keep its members engaged and focused on the purpose, as well as create ways to welcome and invite new members. Their motivation must also be dealt with in terms of keeping them encouraged. Ongoing groups are groups that tend to exist for a long period of time, and because of this, members may lose sight of the purpose and forget why they are there in the first place. Inviting and welcoming new members is a must, as all members of the group may leave and new ones will come and take their place. This is one way of keeping the group alive. Having a celebratory party to welcome the new members may make them feel like they are wanted in the group. I will now pass you on to Chanel.
So we reach the topic of group development. The question arises, what is group development? In synopsis, group development is the various processes in which a group, whether it's formal or informal, goes through over time. This is from the commencement of establishing their existence to their very last stage in their development. Forming. Forming is the first stage of the development process. It is where the members of the group begin to come together to actually form the group as a whole. This development stage, the group starts to gather information on the members, decide on the methods of communication they will utilize, the protocols that they will put into place for response times from members, etc. This stage, they will also decide on things like the purpose and mission of the group and where the building of relationships that are open and trusting are formed. Storming. Storming is a second and a very important stage of the process. This is where the work begins. The group members all bring their ideas and opinions together. At this stage, if the group cannot see eye to eye and their goals are not comprehensible, the group itself can all crumble to the ground. If this does happen, it is recommended that they go back to the first stage of forming the group to try to rectify the issues. This will help them decide on their projects for execution. Storming can be short, clear, or destructive. In this stage, trust is often established. It is noted that some of the group members may never share their opinions or issues in this process stage, as they feel it would not be useful. Norming. Norming is the stage in which the group becomes stable and the members are able to work together in harmony, without any constant conflict and disagreements. Communication will become more frequent at this stage. The group matures, trust is enhanced, and their relationships become closer. At this evolving and third stage, the group's culture is understood, rules and formal or informal procedures will be established, and the group will have a clear insight into their guide on decision-making and behaviors. Performing. Performing occurs when the group has established itself as a cohesive unit. As at this stage, a strong foundation has been built by the stages before it. This fourth stage of development occurs. This stage is where the group members are able to all give their maximum effort and performance. Lippitt 1973 referred to it as, quote unquote, the stage of equilibrium, getting its work done. When groups are time limited, they need to ensure that they get to the stage as fast as they can in order for them to complete their set goals and objectives. Ongoing groups that have an opposite time span compared to a timely group need to ensure that they stay renewed and continually recycle to be effective. Adjourning. Adjourning is referred to as the finishing stage of the group development process. When the project, goals, and objective for the group have been achieved, the group is then disbanded. So we'll look into the relational leadership and the stages of group development. Tuckman and Jensen, 1977, believed that the following aspects of the relational leadership model would have assisted a group in dealing with the stages of their development. So they believe that when a group is forming, that you need to be inclusive and empowering to make sure all the shareholders and stakeholders are involved. Seek diverse members to bring talent to the group. Model the processes of inclusion and shared leadership. Identify common purposes and targets of change. When the group is storming, create a climate in which each person matters and build commitment to the group as a community of practice. Be ethical and open. Be patient to give divergent views a full hearing. Be aware when you may be biased or blocking the full participation of another. Handle conflict directly and openly, encouraging participants to identify their biases. revisit the purposes of the group and targets of change. When the group is norming, it is set to be fair with the processes, practice collaboration, keep new members welcome, informed, and involved, clarify the individual's responsibility to and expectations of the group and the group's responsibilities to and expectations of individuals. When the group is performing, you can celebrate accomplishments and find renewal in relationships. Empower members to learn new skills and share roles in new ways to stay fresh, revisit purposes, and rebuild commitment. So I'll now pass you on to Aji.
Dynamics in groups. Groups involve themselves in many functions which are called group dynamics. Johnson and Johnson stated that group dynamics is a study of the group's life. Group dynamics consists of functions that relate to how conflict is resolved between group members, how decisions are made by the group, and how the needs of the leadership are met. Group rules. Communication patterns may signal the roles that members fall into within the groups. This is one of the foundations for understanding group dynamics. There are two kinds of roles that groups depend on. These are group building rules and task rules. Comives, Lucas, and McMahon noted that group building rules are actions that focus on the group as people, including the relationships among members. Another name we can call these rules is group maintenance rules. They also noted that task rules focus on accomplishing the purposes of the group, including giving information and opinions, and moving the group along on task by summarizing and by using various decision-making strategies. The focus of task rules is the information derived from group discussions. Persons in the group engaging themselves in both of these rules are vital to the group dynamics being effective. This would help the group flourish and progress a lot faster. Dysfunctional rules. I will now be explaining some of the dysfunctional rules. On some occasions, there will be persons who display dysfunctional rules that will disrupt the group's progress. One of which is the special interest pleader. This is a person who will persistently have his or her points heard and will constantly repeat it until he or she is recognized. Even if the group is ready to go on to other matters, he or she will make sure that his or her voice is heard. An example of this is where a person, let's call him John, will constantly say that this idea will be beneficial despite its drawbacks. He will stress and emphasize on the benefits that his idea has. Blocker. Any group action that is being blocked by a pessimistic or negative person in the group is called a blocker. This person will disagree with almost everything and not settle for anything. Participants who provide constructive criticism or negative feedback because they actually care for the welfare of the group's progress and they think a certain measure can either help or harm it, should not be confused with the dysfunctional rules like the blocker. Dysfunctional rules actually disrupts the progress of the group's goals or progress. So in this case, the group's progress will not be disrupted as the member would want to ensure that there are no disadvantages that would greatly affect the group. Comives, Lucas, and McMahon says that someone who effectively uses humor, no matter how goofy, to relieve tension or create harmony should not be confused with someone who acts like a clown and never takes the group seriously. Acting like a clown and not taking the group seriously, however, is a display of a dysfunctional role. A person who is quiet and does not contribute anything to a group discussion or meeting, but actively listens, thinks, and provides support to the group's decision is an active participant. On the other hand, if someone does not listen in on the discussions and sits at the back doing something else, that person is a non-participant. Next slide, please. Associating the dysfunctional rules slide.
Chanel, are you hearing EJ? Oops, it looks like she got bumped off. Give her a buzz, EJ, see what's going on.
Okay. Oh, she said she got kicked out. I think she'll be joining back just now.
Okay, cool.
She said she coming back now.
All right, welcome back.
Okay, sorry about that. Next slide, please. Task rules. There are many different task rules, and one of which is the information seeker. This person notices that the group needs more data, statistics, or facts before moving on. An example of this is where a person in the group, John, says that they cannot use this measure or tactic because they are unaware of the cons of it. He might appoint or choose another person to seek out the necessary information before they proceed. Another is the opinion seeker. This is someone who notices that the group needs more ideas, understanding, or opinions before moving on. Let's use an example with Sally. Sally may have more knowledge and experience with the topic. A group member asking Sally for her thoughts and opinion on the topic will be called the opinion seeker. The third is the opinion giver. This is a person who shares his or her ideas, views, or feelings so the group gains the benefit of his or her thinking. I will use the example with Sally again. So the group is deciding to cut down trees to make space for a park. Although cutting down the trees is bad because they absorb carbon dioxide, which is one of the major greenhouse gases, Sally imparts her knowledge on the group and decides that they will cut down some of the trees to create space for the park and plant back the ones that have been cut down. The fourth is the summarizer. A summarizer is someone who simplifies the opinions or what was said in the discussions. The final task rule is clarifier. This person elaborates or explains the ideas in new words to add meaning. Comics, Lucas, and McMahon use an example which is as follows. Jim, did you mean we need more involvement, meaning quantity, or better involvement, like quality? Okay, so my question for you. Which of the following task rules do you consider yourself to be? Well, me personally, I would be the opinion giver because I like to share my thoughts on like a certain topic or something, and well, anything like that. What were you? Anyone?
Probably all.
All right. So any role that Mr. Naked is splitting. Nice. Okay, I will now move on to group building rules. The first one is gatekeeper. This member clears the floor for anyone who have not said anything or was trying to share their thoughts to the conversation to speak up. An example of this is where Rena notices that Darrell wanted to say something and she asks him to say what she wants to share. The second rule is encourager. The encourager makes sure everyone in the group feels welcome and is open to differing ideas. The encourager has a friendly way of communicating with others to promote the inclusion and empowerment of others. An example where this can occur is where Frida, who I will use as the encourager, thanks Kyle and Sharon from the marketing department for bringing up an issue that was of concern to them. The third is mediator. This person tries to sort out the differing points of view in a logical way and resolves the conflict. An example from Comics, Lucas, and McMahon stated that the mediator might say something like this: the opinions presented by the two of you on the matter are not so different. You two have agreement on a lot of points, but also value the same thing. Going on to the fourth, we have the follower, who is a person who actively listens and supports the group decisions and course of action willingly. A situation where this rule may be seen is that Sam, who was listening to a group discussion, says that although he hasn't contributed much, it was really informative and agrees with the decision made. I will now pass you on to Chanel.
Chanel, everything's okay?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I talking away and it's in mute. Sorry. So the question to the class that we would like to find out, based on the group building rules that Ajay discussed, which of the following group building rules will you consider yourself to be? A gatekeeper, encourager, mediator, or follower? Me personally, I would say I am an encourager. But anyone would like to share what they think they are?
I believe that I'm a mediator.
Okay, that's a nice one.
Same.
I would say I'm an encourager.
I would also say that I'm a mediator as well.
Okay. So I'll now pass you back on to Ajay.
Okay, thank you. A rule set is what a set of practices someone would prefer to do in a group. Everyone would have different preferences to what they would want to do in a group. For instance, someone might find it easier to summarize what was said or maybe ask opinions from other members. Other people may prefer to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to share their ideas. There are persons who would also want to share their opinions and information. Both of the group building and task rules are needed to be practiced by participants to ensure that the group performs effectively. Knowing which rules are needed to be performed by any member of the group is important as, sorry about that. Knowing which rules are needed to be performed by any member of the group is important as there will be occurrences where the member or leader may not comfortably perform all the rules required. For example, if you are not good at coming up with something or not able to share your opinion because you can't think of anything, but there's a need for ideas or more insight on a topic, you can step in and say something like this. I think we need more insight and opinions on this topic. Someone who is familiar with the rule will then proceed to fulfill it. Group norms. In an ongoing group, there would be practices that are normal to the group, but a newcomer will not be familiar with these practices. Examples of this would be like if the group goes into other discussions or stay on topic, like what it is they have to do. Do the members sit and wait to be called on before they are supposed to talk, or is there more freedom for discussion? All of these kinds of practices are the norms or rules of conduct that lead to consistent practices in the group, as stated by Comives, Lucas, and McMahon. There are norms that are plain and obvious, or in other words, explicit. Like when you are playing baseball, you expect to bat when it is your turn, or when you play hide and seek. If you are seeking, it is your job to find the hiders, and if you are hiding, it is your job not to get caught by the seeker. The rules and purpose of the group greatly impact the norms of it. Other norms are the result from the evolution of the group's cultural practices. Some examples are introducing the new members or guests at the beginning of the meeting, arranging the chairs in a circle, having birthday celebrations, or even celebrating the success or accomplishments of the group members. Group norms play a role in the concept of group climate. The group climate is like the personality of the group. You can say that the group's personality is similar to that of an individual. Maybe one group can be flexible, open, supportive, views every member as important, and often uses humor, for example, friendship groups. Another can be formal, sophisticated, indifferent, not open to new members, or have a lack of trust between participants, like business groups. Group norms can greatly influence what kind of personality your group will have. So if you want your group to have a distinct personality, it is useful to consider what norms it will lead to those desired outcomes. The relational leadership model is designed to create a group in which members feel highly engaged. What is conflict? Conflict is the disagreement between individuals because of the differences in thought, process, attitudes, understanding, interests, requirements, and even sometimes perceptions, as stated by Juneja. During the storming stage of the group development, the progress of the group can be stunted. At any stage, the climate of the group can become tense and hostile because of the unresolved conflict, but it can also be an effective method for improving the group's outcomes. How, sorry. Most people would like to avoid the idea of conflict as it causes the atmosphere of the group to be uncomfortable. Harmony would be the thing that most people would prefer. Differing assumption of rules, also called rule conflict, personality clashes, and group members not agreeing on the same idea can all lead to conflict. Personality preferences and learning preferences can help in understanding personality conflict, which were presented in chapters 1 and 5. Thinking about what assumptions you have of your rule or the rule of others and see what clashes with their expectations can best handle this issue of rule conflicts. This will help gain the understanding from both sides and see what can be agreed upon to reach a consensus. Conflict in ideas is often called controversy. In order for the group to make the best decision, a full discussion of the differences of ideas and opinions is required. Such controversies are needed to be handled in a civilized manner with open dialogue. It is not out of the ordinary for people to avoid conflict, so they tend not to pay attention to it or pretend that it doesn't exist. People try to lessen the conflict by acknowledging it as unimportant or putting it off for another time. Communities that are genuine would not avoid conflicts but rather resolve them. Instead of using power strategies, it is best to execute negotiation and mediation strategies when groups encounter conflicts. There are three conflict resolution outcomes, which are as follows: win-win, win-lose, and lose-lose. In the win-win outcome, both sides are satisfied with how their differences have been resolved, and the points of view from both sides were heard. This can also strengthen the group, and the decisions made may be a lot better than what the dialogue can offer. In the win-lose outcome, power strategies such as putting down, out-talking, or hurrying to make a hasty vote are used by one side. A loser is therefore created in this process, and that person would become angry, feel bitterness or insignificant, as they may have lost potential allies. The members of the group have no feeling of inclusion or empowerment, and the group's peace is destroyed. In the lose-lose outcome, power strategies are used on both sides. They get so fixated on their points that can cause them to be unchanging and hurtful to a point where no resolution occurs. The relational leadership model encourages processes to handle conflict that will promote inclusivity and empowerment. The group can establish some ground rules, which are the group norms, because the relational leadership model foresees the differences of ideas and ways of tackling a situation or problem that everyone has. This will act as a guide for members of the group to be honest, not hold back on anything that is bothering them, and to make them feel willing to talk about any possible issues of conflict. An environment that is safe for differences will be created by these group norms. Some examples of these ground rules are agreeing that everyone who wants to talk will have an opportunity to speak and highlight points of agreement and disagreement. It is important to note that when group encounters disagreements, it should be handled with civility. All members of the group must ensure that they will make no lifelong enemies in an attempt to be inclusive of all the opinions each participant has. Different perspectives can be highlighted through conflicts, which can be useful. Conflicts are a great way to give rise to the perspectives that need consideration, and only when these are analyzed could the group finally move to resolution. The more homogeneous a group is, the more important it is to think through an issue from multiple perspectives. This means that the more similarities each member has in a group with regards to their thinking process and perspectives, the more critical it is to think from various points of view about the issue. An example of this is where a is presented in a student council from a high school, and a group members wonders what would students from the Form 1 level think, as they are mostly students from the upper forms that are in the council. The group member also questions if they should reconsider it.
So we will be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of conflict. So some of the advantages of conflict are: it can increase motivation and energy. It clarifies issues and positions. It can build internal cohesiveness and esprit de corps. It can lead to innovation and creativity. It can increase self-awareness, may be a means of dealing with internal conflict, it can lead to a new synthesis of ideas or methods. Some of the liabilities of conflict are, it can be debilitating, can distract from goal achievement, it can cause defensiveness and rigidity, it can cause distortions of reality, it often becomes a negatively reinforcing cycle, and it tends to escalate to more serious situations and to proliferate to more, which is more issues. Efforts to resolve are often not reciprocated. So I will do a brief recap on what is dynamics in groups. Group dynamics consists of the different social processes in which members of a group engross themselves in. According to Johnson and Johnson 1994, group dynamics is the study of the group's life. So we're going to look at group decision making. The customary view on leadership most times presume that groups and organizations consist of a formal or positional leader. This leader possesses the authority and responsibility to make final decisions without all of the members being present, which in most cases this will be true as the positional leader will have to do so at some point. Some reasons for this may be limited time, solo representation of the group, or decisions not being major ones that the leader can make it without the group being there. When positional leaders have to make a lone decision, it is recommended that they utilize the relational leadership module, asking the following questions. Is it purposeful? Does it support the vision and mission of the group? Is it inclusive to the group members' opinions? Is it empowering? Does it increase or decrease the group's involvement? Is the decision an ethical one? Is the decision process oriented? For positional leaders in organizations, participative leadership is frequently known to involve, quote unquote, the use of decision procedures intended to allow other people some influence over the leader's decisions, quoted from UCL 1989, page 83. The principles behind this leadership believes that better results are obtained from inclusion of the other members in the team when making decisions. 4 possible decision-making procedures as identified by UCL are 1. Autocratic, 2. Consultation, 3. Joint decision, or 4. Delegation or participation. This ranges from the amount of influence one has in the decision-making process to none at all. Johnson and Johnson 1984 also described 5 methods of decision-making. Decision by authority without discussion, expert member, average member's opinion, decision by authority after discussion, and 5, majority control. Rational leadership is said to promote the consensus model whenever possible. Rayner 1996 defines the consensus model as, it does mean that no one is professionally violated by the decision and that all team members will support its implementation. Listed below is Rayner's guidelines for achieving consensus in a team. 1. Clearly define the issue facing the team. 2. Focus on similarities between positions. 3. ensure that there is adequate time for discussion, and 4, avoid conflict-reducing tendencies. So we're going to look at teamwork now. Teamwork can be described as the collaborative efforts that members of a team or group put towards achieving a common goal or purpose. The course text used the sports metaphor to describe teamwork, stating that the metaphor indicates teamwork consists of morals, motivation, support, common purpose, diverse roles, and inclusion. In a previous chapter, it used the metaphor of jazz, stating that the participants of the team are an ensemble, and also the metaphor of a community for groups of participants, sorry. Whichever metaphor it is used, all members that consist of the group are required to share the goal of working together towards an effective team. Teams and groups. All groups are not teams, even though they may seem to be the same thing. They both have different concepts. A group is known as a collection of individuals who collaborate their efforts, whereas a team is said to be a group of persons who strive to achieve a common goal. Again, they do sound similar. However, when it comes to decision making and teamwork, they are different. According to Hughes, Gannett, and Coffey, 1993, they both consist of mutual interaction and reciprocal influence. Teams have a stronger sense of identity and common goals or tasks. Task independence is higher within a team than a group, and the team members usually have more distinctive roles than group members. So we're going to look at the 3 common types of teams according to Parker 2003. So the 3 common types are functional teams, self-directed teams, and cross-functional teams. Functional teams. These consist of organizational members from different levels of the organization's hierarchy, where at the top, power and authority stands. Self-directed teams. In this type of teams, the members are competent and are part of the decision-making process towards the team's goals, as they are allowed a level of authority from the leader. Cross-functional teams. This type of team consists of variety when it comes to the members, skills, and expertise. Most times, the members are all from different levels within the organization. I'll now pass you back on to Ajay.
Here we have a table. Here we have a table showing the working groups versus teams. In working groups, a leader who is clearly focused and strong is appointed, whereas the leadership responsibilities between the members are shared in a team. The working group's purpose is the general mission of the organization, while the team's purpose is one that is special and well-defined. The output is only provided by individual work in working groups. However, the output is developed by the individual and the team itself. Under working groups, effectiveness is indirectly assessed through a group's ability to influence others. On the other hand, effectiveness can be measured directly through assessing the output of the team's work. For working groups, only personal accountability is recognized. So if a mistake is made, the individual would have to take responsibility and face the consequences, whereas the accountabilities of both the team and individual are recognized, so the responsibility falls on everyone. In working groups, individual success is acknowledged and rewarded, while in teams, individual contributions that help the team succeed are also acknowledged and celebrated. Meetings are efficiently conducted and only last a few minutes in working groups, whereas team members involve active problem solving and open-ended discussions. For working groups, participants in meetings select, assign, and discuss their tasks and issues. However, for teams, participants in meetings select, discuss, and actually do the work together. I will now go on to talk about SMART goals. In order to succeed, teams must have clear goals. The goals provide a direction for the group, as the members will have an idea of what to do and where to proceed in terms of getting work done. Teams frequently either don't spend the time necessary to develop the goals, or they create them in a way that is vague and impossible to achieve. Teams can utilize the SMART rubric as a foundation while they create their goals. Specific. Everyone must have an understanding of the goal. If the goal is not understood by some members of the group, then everyone will not be on the same page and conflicts may arise. What is expected from the participants may be different to what they think is expected of them. This can also slow the progress of the group. Measurable. It must be quantifiable. Attainable. The goal must be achievable and workable. If the goal is not like this, the group members' motivation will significantly decrease, as they know they will not be able to complete the goal. Relevant. The goal is consistent with the organization's general strategy and direction. If the goal is not connected to a strategy and direction, the whole purpose of the group will be defeated. Time bound. The group will be accomplished within a specific amount of time. An example of a SMART goal would be to reply to any emails the team gets concerning its upcoming event on April the 2nd within 24 hours. This goal is specific and relevant, as it clearly outlines what group members have to do. Measurable, as it says to reply to any email regarding the activity. Attainable in the sense that responding will not be impossible to do. Time-bound, as it has a specific time, which is April the 2nd. Teams are a mixture of differing personalities, backgrounds, history, talents, and styles. Factors for a team's success. The factors presented below are vital for a team's success and are as follows. To determine the best solution, organizational boundaries must be overlooked. You will only restrict yourself to many possibilities if you only look within the limits, but if you look beyond the boundaries, you will be exposed to a large number of possibilities. When developing projects, be mindful and open to the concerns and perspectives of the other team members. This will make the group members feel included and important, which can raise morale. Know that everyone in the team must commit to common goals and targets. If this is not done, then progress will be slowed. Communicate openly and regularly. This can aid in clearing any misunderstanding or issues the group may have. Each team member contributes their fair and work towards the same goal. This is only fair for everyone in the group, rather than one or two persons doing all the work. Using the expertise of the team members to gain an advantage. Establish an atmosphere of trust among the team's members. Even if it involves making changes to the existing procedure, be open to trying out unconventional ideas. You can learn something from trying new methods or ideas. When discussions become tense and there's a lot of pressure to finish a task, the use of a little humor can be beneficial. This can erase the tension and stress, which can help you relax a bit, as there will be a lot that is going on. I will now discuss team learning. For a college student, independent learning is usually the norm. That book, computer program, and that test are only done by you, therefore only if you do the activities required from you will you learn. But there are numerous ways to learn, including through study groups, group projects, and real-world situations. A team must always find a means to learn collectively rather than individually if it has a shared duty. Senge stated that teams or groups of individuals who depend on one another to act are the learning unit or units of organizations. One strategy for team learning is to compile the majority of the of the members' preferred learning styles. For example, if a friendship group where the majority are flexible and casual, or a scientific group where everyone has preferences for facts and details. However, intentional practices are needed for intentional team learning. Team learning occurs through reflection on common experiences and discussion among members. Dialogue is a sustained collective inquiry into everyday experience and what we take for granted, as stated by Senge, Klenner, Roberts, Ross, and Smith. Dialogue is much more than just exchanging meaning through words. It includes things like pauses, laughter, tone of voice, troubling finding the proper words, and the amount of discussion required to reach an understanding. Members in a team conversation are aware of both the method and the content of their communication. It is crucial that both teams and organizations create ground rules or norms to handle their inevitable conflicts with decorum if true understanding is to result. Dialogue and discussion are two slightly different processes. Some groups accidentally participate in discussions where participants express their personal opinions with little or no regard for genuine knowledge. This may result in a discussion that only serves to debunk opposing points of view or worsen interpersonal bonds to the point where a group falls apart. True dialogue approaches with the goals of learning together and enacting change will be established by groups that value collaborative learning. The processes of reflection, which involve group thinking, entail dialogue. You will have a responsibility to connect and comprehend as a listener. The goal of the dialogue is to not prove your points, but to clarify them. Leadership implications. In a productive work community, leaders are not commanders and controllers, bosses and higher-ups. They are servers and supporters, partners and providers. Team learning is also facilitated by leaders in group environments. Understanding one's reason, advocating for one's own interests while being open to hearing other points of view, and finding common ground are all necessary for facilitate team learning. To make any shared group experience a conscious team process, participants and leaders must equally share the responsibility of analyzing it. Both successes and failures must be understood. Groups all too frequently spend a great deal of time trying to figure out why something failed rather than considering why something worked so effectively. Team leadership. Two critical functions of leadership are team performance and team development. Emphasis is placed on process-oriented, which is the team development, and purpose, which is the team performance, by the relational leadership model. Meeting the group's goals, coming up with plans and decisions, getting things done, and resolving issues all contribute to the performance of the team. Building strong relationships, fostering a sense of value for each team member, and encouraging togetherness within the team are all parts of team development. When people work in teams, innovation, productivity, decision-making, creativity, the use of resources, quality, and problem-solving are all enhanced or increased. Leaders must manage the team or group's ongoing activities while also meeting internal and external needs. Leaders alternate between monitoring, acting, and focusing on both internal and external group issues. These tasks can be performed by team members. This is frequently the case with more seasoned or mature organizations. In these situations, leaders would be wise to step aside and allow their team to take on those duties and tasks. Determining which issues require intervention and which can be handled by the team as a whole must be balanced carefully. I will now pass you on to Chanel.
So we're going to look at characteristics on team leadership. Research on team leadership found the following characteristics from Hill 2004. The goals must be clear and elevating. Results-driven structure. The group's vision drives the structure of the team. Competent team members. The members must possess the required knowledge, unified commitment. They need to work together as a team and not as a group. Collaborative climate. All members must individually contribute towards the goal. Standards of excellence. Standards are set where all members are expected to perform at their highest level. Principal leadership. The leader sets priorities, helps keep the team on track to the goals, and manages performances. External support. The team must have the required resources to attain their goal. So we're going to look at design components needed to establish teams. So according to Hughes, Gannett, and Curfey in 1993, the 4 design components needed to establish a team are task structure, group boundaries, norms, and authority. With task structure, they need to understand what needs to be done. Group boundaries, the size of the team is adequate. There is variety and the team is competent. Norms. The team has a set rule of norms to guide everyone's attention. Authority. The leader uses authority flexible and not stiff. Members allow for open discussions. Feelings of trust and empowerment is present. I'll now pass you back on to Ajay.
As we conclude today's presentation, we have learned that there are many reasons for a group to exist. What factors can bring a group closer and what can tear them apart? We have also learned about the different roles for each person can perform in, as well as the stages for group development were also introduced. Group members can take leadership responsibilities, so it doesn't have to be one person calling the shots. A highly involved group is what the relational leadership model seeks to achieve. I will now pass you on to Chanel.
The relational leadership model will be helpful in assisting the decision-making process whenever a positional leader is required to make a personal choice. With its focus on process-oriented, which is team development, and purpose, team performance, the relational leadership model emphasizes the significance of both of these roles, team performance. This is our references. References again. And now we would like to thank everyone for viewing, and the floor is open for questions if anyone have any questions.
All right, if there are no questions, I'm going to pause the recording now.